Howdy, folks. Let's Talk Music is about learning from experienced professional musicians, about them sharing their experiences in their own words. Whether they're composers or educators or performers, the goal is to help viewers understand some of the nuances of life in the music business and perhaps help viewers develop a better understanding of a career that they might be considering in music. My guest in this video is Steve Barden, a production music composer for film and television. His music can be heard on television somewhere in the world on a daily basis. His music has aired on dozens and dozens of networks and countries around the world. Steve is also an author, having published 3 books. Steve is also a multi-instrumentalist, playing guitar, piano, violin, and many other string instruments. He studied guitar at the Guitar Institute of Technology in Hollywood, currently the Musicians Institute, and studied film scoring at UCLA. So as always, be sure to check out the links in the description below so you can support our guest and the channel. Now, let's talk music. Well, Steve, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to spend time with me. I've got 5 questions I want to run down. So hopefully some folks will get some insight, some inspiration. You've got a lot of great things to talk about. So let's just dive in. Let me start kind of with the background. I think it's important for musicians, aspiring musicians, to understand the motivations that had folks like you or me, creatives, enter the music world. So what are your earliest musical memories, and how did those early life experiences lead you into becoming a music composer?
It's interesting because I'm natively a guitar player, and I pursued guitar all my life. I went to the Guitar Institute of Technology, which is now Musicians Institute in Hollywood. Tommy Tedesco mentored me. I wanted to be a
Wow.
studio guitarist in the worst way. And at that time, this was like in 1980, the studio system was kind of falling apart, and they were
Yeah.
going with smaller essentially what became home studios. So the studio session player chain kind of felt it was starting to fall apart. So I kind of moved into other areas. I performed in rock bands, toured the country, casual bands, did a lot of bar mitzvahs and weddings. Um, uh, Early in 1990, I went to UCLA, and then I started pursuing film scoring because I was a music major in college. I had always composed, even though I was a guitar player. I found out that I was really better at composing, and I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. So I moved into composition and really fell in love with orchestral composing, and had some successes in film scoring, doing some shorts. I did animation for Saban Entertainment. They're the ones who did the Power Rangers show in the 90s. So I did a bunch of cartoon series for them. I did a project for Nickelodeon, and just really couldn't quite make a living at it, but still pursued it. I kind of fell into production music, which I've been doing the last 20 years, kind of by accident. A friend of mine who's an illustrator and animator, and he was working on a commercial spot for Time Warner Cable. And he invited me to compose some music for it, which I did. And I was just sort of learning about royalties. And I had joined ASCAP and was just trying to, figure my way throughout everything. And I did the commercial, and I filed a cue sheet for it, and not knowing what would happen. And 2 or 3 years went by before I heard anything. And I got a call from somebody at ASCAP in New York saying, we've got some money with your name on it, but we needed some more information. And would you fill out this form? And I don't remember the exact details. And I thought, well, if I make $500 out of this, effort, that's cool. And so I did all that. And then a couple of weeks later, I got a check in the mail for $24,000.
Woo!
I thought, okay, that's pretty cool. And then, as I said, I was just learning about royalties and stuff. And I went back to ASCAP and I said, I own the rights to the music. I am also the publisher. And they said, well, you need to join, become a publishing member, which I did. And then I had to fill out some more documents and proof that I owned the music. And then I got another check equaling the same amount of money.
Wow.
And then over the next couple of years, as the commercial played out over its lifetime, I ended up bringing in about $50,000. So
Fantastic.
this summer is the 20th anniversary of that first royalty payment.
Wow.
I thought, wow, this is pretty cool. I should pursue this a little bit more. But actually, at the time, I didn't really know how to go beyond that, what to do with it. And it wasn't until a few years later that I ended up joining Taxi A&R. And I had actually joined as a songwriter. I had just written an album, and I thought I was going to be a pop star or something. And it
And
turns out
what year was that roughly?
2006 or 7.
Okay.
And then after getting a lot of rejections from my submissions, I kind of figured out that my music, the songs that I was writing, they were very personal and they really weren't commercially viable. But then I started seeing some postings for a lot of instrumental tracks. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm an instrumental composer. Why don't I start pursuing this a little bit? And I started building up my sample library, and things got better and better. And one thing led to another, and I got a forward, and I got into a music library, and I started getting some placements. And it just started snowballing at that point. And then, I mean, I was going to look at the numbers. I think I've done like 500 TV episodes, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's not really I'm not making a living at it, but it's a substantial amount of income that is supplementing my day job.
Right. It's amazing how different composers had different experiences. How many cues do you think you have in the libraries today, based on since you started?
It's really not that many, probably around 300.
Okay, but the dollars speak for themselves. So everyone's experience is different. As far as it's about quantity, but it's about networking, timing, lots of things. I mean, that ad came about from someone that knew you, and lo and behold, it turned into something fantastic. And then you started pursuing, other revenue streams as well. But one of the things, you've got a music education, I've got a music education. Many of our peers have a music education. I consider music literacy as important. We all know composers out there that may even scoff at the idea of learning how to read or understanding the basics of music theory. Now, of course, there's always plenty of examples of musicians, composers, etc., that don't know how to read or understand theory. They just do it by ear and lack those skills. But I've got a strong opinions about the value of music education. Do you have any opinions on the value of having a grasp of basic musical concepts like reading music, understanding chord progressions, and how this can help composers be more productive and successful?
Yeah, I mean, I think like reading music is like reading, English or whatever your native language is in a book. If you don't know how to, it's going to sort of limit your ability to learn. Now, today we have YouTube videos, so
Mm-hmm.
you can learn a lot from that method. But I think just having some background in theory and just basic structure. You don't have to know how to write a 3-part fugue. But just understanding some things. One of my recent books that I wrote was on music production, and it was basically a book of transcriptions of a bunch of cues, orchestral cues that I have placed in shows. But it's all in written notation.
I'm going to get to that. I've got that as question 4. I want to
Okay.
talk about. We'll dive
All
into that in
right.
just a second. But
But
carry the thought.
one of the things that I've heard about is, people saying, well, look, I don't really read music. Is this going to help me? And I think, well, there are little sections, you can listen to the audio that's available for it, and you can look at the sheet music, and there are little paragraphs that describe this thematic piece or this rhythm. And you should be able to kind of look at it and kind of work it out. But I also think if you want to write orchestral music, for example, you need to study from the masters, and you're going to pick up a book by Beethoven or Mozart or Stravinsky or John Williams, anybody. There really isn't tablature for, orchestral music. You kind of
Yeah.
need to be able to absorb the language in some small way, if anything at all. So I think it behooves you to spend a little time and understand the basics of music theory, understanding the relationship of chords and pitches, and understanding harmony. It will just make you that much better of a musician. And you can learn by rote, and you can mimic what others are doing, and it'll get you so far. But I think you'll excel if you understand this a little bit more.
Absolutely agree with you. Absolutely agree. So question 3, we're both tech guys. You long ago, you were a .NET developer, and then in 2007 the iPhone comes out, and you jump on the iOS development train, which has been your career since then, basically in the day job. I'm not a developer. I'm on the application infrastructure side, servers, data centers, cloud infrastructure, things of that sort. So that's been my day job for the past few decades. So we share technology daytime jobs as our careers, which certainly makes music a little less stressful because we're not depending on that sync fee or that wedding gig to pay our phone bill at the end of the month. You've also actually, I think you created a couple of applications, one having to do with syncing up your delay to your tempo and things like that. I mean, you're a coder, so you know how to do that stuff. So you're a musician, you get the day job as a developer, you're writing music, now you're doing books. How do you balance your music life with your tech life, your day gig, your family life, et cetera, your pets? How do you balance all of that and not go crazy?
It's just the desire to stay in music.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, you get bogged down with a family. I had, I was married and had two kids at a very early age. And you're kind of forced to make a decision. Do you want to just be a bum and do bar gigs the rest of your life, or do you want to get a job and support your family? And I chose the latter. I don't regret it. I wish that things had turned out a little differently, with my music career. So I never got to the point where I could say, I'm going to quit my day job and just work on music. The flip side of that is that my career has afforded me the ability to purchase the gear that I've needed to be good at music, to be to be on par with what is happening, because there's a very high bar in production music today, way different than it was even 10 years ago, and it's just getting higher and higher. That said, my current career, since the pandemic, it's been work from home. And that has been a huge benefit to me. I've been so prolific because instead of spending 3 hours a day in the car driving to work,
Amen,
I turn that around and use it to write music. And in fact, I'll sit here with my laptop in front of me for my day job work. And then behind me, I have a couple of monitors with my DAW open all the time. So if I have 10 minutes available, I'll start working on music. So I've always got something going. Why did I write books? Why did I do all these other things? These are just things that interest me. I don't want to just stick with, I don't know. I think if I had succeeded at being a studio guitarist, I probably would have gotten bored with it after a while. But
it's interesting.
With production music, it's one of those things where I'm able to write a lot of different styles of music. Because I am a guitarist, I can do a lot of rock stuff. I do, dobro. I can do swampy guitar. I play the keyboards, fairly well, definitely enough to compose. So all of this background has enabled me to do a lot of things and just, keep me happy, basically.
Absolutely, I agree. You're not using your passion to fund your life. You've found a career that can fund your passion, maybe release some of the stress and let you be free. Let's talk about the books. We got this one here, and I'm going to say anyone that wants to be in this business that's watching this video, just go buy this book. I'll have a link in the description. This book, I don't know if you can see this, all those dog ears I've got. This thing is full of just fantastic practical information. Your track could have made more money if pitched only to one library. You got quotes from friends of ours like Jim Malone, Matt Hurt, et cetera, and industry veterans and supervisors, et cetera. I just got all sorts of things circled in here, and you got images and about technology and all sorts of great stuff in here. You can see pencil markings, and I definitely enjoy this book. This is a fantastic, plainly written book. That I think is fantastic. And then you mentioned earlier this book, which I bought. Now, this, I can't believe I looked it up as I went to Amazon. I bought this 5 years ago. I have no idea it's been that long since I bought it. And then after I heard you wrote this one, I pre-ordered it, I think March, and it came out in April 2020 or 2021. This one gets back to our music literacy question earlier, where, and again, folks, if you read music, if you don't, it's a good book. But if you read music, you've got, scores and also what's great about this book is that you have audio files, access to audio files that you can listen and follow along. And if you don't read music, if you follow along, you'll start learning how to read music. This is a fantastic book. So, definitely get both these books. They're fantastic resources. So, you wrote this one in 2017, and then you wrote this one in 2020. I'm sorry, 2021. You also wrote one for about staff pad, music notation for the modern computer. What motivated you to become an author? Of all the things you're already doing, what made you become an author, and what did you learn in the book creating process?
I don't recommend writing books, to be honest. um, my publisher
Time
said,
ROI is not good.
well, when I sat down with my publisher, when I decided to do the first book, he sat me down and he said, look, don't put a down payment on a yacht quite yet, because you're not going to make a lot of money. It's,
The labor of love.
it really is. This publisher, the book is distributed by Hal Leonard, and this publisher, Center Stream Publications. I've actually known this guy for 30 years probably, and I've done a lot of work for him, doing transcriptions and music notation and layout and all kinds of stuff for his other books. And he's bugged me for years to write a book. And as a guitarist, I thought, what kind of a guitar book can I write that hasn't already been written? And he just, every year I see him at the NAMM show, and he'd bug me, Steve, when are you going to write a book for me? And I just thought about it. And it's like, what have I been doing the last 10 years at that point? And it was like music production. Let me write a book about production music.
Right.
And that's where the first book came out. And I've had a lot of experiences, and I've, met a lot of terrific people, made a lot of, connections in the industry. And so I just wanted to put all that knowledge together. And it's actually been quite a successful book, and I get a lot of compliments from people all the time. Now, why did the other books come out? Staff Pad book came out the second, because I've always been a paper and pencil kind of composer.
Yeah.
I have score pads all over the place.
Okay.
And Staff Pad is an app for the iPad, and also for Microsoft tablet, where you can write music notation on the tablet, and it plays back in sample libraries by Orchestral Tools and Cinesamples and Spitfire. And it's just the most amazing tool. It's the first time I've spent $90 on an app for the iPad.
Yeah. That's funny. I was talking to someone about that the other day. I want just be brief. When we were younger, I started as a graphic artist in 1990, 1991, using freehand, Aldus Freehand and Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop. Those applications were hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Music sequencing software was hundreds or thousands of dollars. Now, today, you mentioned a $60 app as, oh my God, I spent $60 on an app. People get mad if they got to spend $5 on an app. I mean, the world has changed so much in that perspective. I guess that kind of transitions me. My last question with you, Steve, is the music industry continues to change. Some folks are saying, hey, the TV sync market is already saturated with composers, partially because the music tools are just so good. Sample libraries are getting better and better. The DAWs are getting better and better. We've also got the issue of artificial intelligence starting to become relevant in creating certain genres. I think things like dramedy or tension and some things are pretty easy to do already, and that will only get better over time as they further train the AI models. How do you see the industry changing today versus when you got into it, and what are you doing yourself to keep yourself relevant?
The biggest thing is networking, is just having those avenues to go down to get your music placed. I honestly don't think AI produced music is really going to put us out of business. I mean, every 5 years there's some new technology that we think, oh, we're going to be put out of business.
Right.
When they said back in the late 80s, when all this digital stuff was coming out with computers, that we're never going to use paper again, and we used more paper for printing stuff than ever before.
Yeah.
There needs to be a human backbone to anything that happens in music, and I just don't think AI is it's a novelty. I mean, let's talk back in a couple of years and see what's going on. But I honestly,
I think it's a tool. talking to our mutual friend Adonis Eletris recently about this, and he said the same exact thing. Samplers are going to put string players out of business. Drum machines are going to put drummers out of business. Yes. Software libraries are going to. They're all just newest versions of technology. How we as composers adapt and utilize them becomes relevant. I think AI will be yet another quiver in our bow, another arrow in our quiver. I'm getting that saying completely wrong, but another weapon for us to use, so we can choose to become a victim of it, or we can take advantage of it and use it. There, I can see a time where we'll have an AI plugin for Contact and says, generate pizzicato strings, here's the chord progression. Or, I mean, we already have it in...
we already have stuff like that already.
The drummer plugin in Logic does the same thing. There's your beat, so it's there. So I think we have to be able to learn how to take advantage of it and not be afraid of it.
There's a lot of... Audio Bro has their LA scoring strings and their modern scoring strings, where they have ostinato patterns built in, where you just give it the chord progression and it generates these ostinato patterns. I mean, we've already been seeing this. It's a tool to help us, but I mean, somebody's got to create those chord progressions, and AI I think can only go so far with it.
I see them as being tools that help us work faster. I think our industry is a service industry. We are providing music to set a mood for a music supervisor, a music editor. They're saying, I need this mood, I need dramedy, I need tension, I need action. And so if we can use AI to help help them to deliver quality products and a quantity that they want and in the timelines they need, I think I can see in the near future an AI plugin, for Contact or your favorite DAW, Logic or Fruit Loops, whatever it's going to be. So I think it's a tool we'll be able to use going forward. That really brings us to the end. We're going to run out of time shortly. I guess final question, a bonus question. What's next for you? Are you going to stick and focus on composition now and stay away from books? What's next for Steve Barden?
Yeah, so the last year I've been focusing on writing trailer music. All of last year and the last couple of months of 2021, I wrote close to 80 trailer tracks.
Woo!
As a result of that, from December to January, I decided to release it all on my own. So I released 7 albums. So I've just signed with a trailer company this week, and I'm just moving in that direction. And this is just something that interests me right now. We'll see what happens next year, in the year after that. But
there could be a trailer book, one of these, but with here's demystifying the 3-act trailer format for TV.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we'll see. Yeah. But I do this stuff. First of all, it has to make me happy.
Right.
But yeah. I'm going to retire one day, but for me, retiring doesn't mean sitting on the porch and whittling. Right. I want to do stuff for music that makes me happy, and especially with production music, there is that back end royalty payments that will see you through the lean years. So that's kind of what I'm looking at.
Absolutely, I think music is one of those things that we can do when we're retired. I'm officially retired. I personally will never retire based on my life decisions and how things have happened, et cetera. I'll be working a long time, but I know that if I keep building my catalog and keep adapting with the times, I can enjoy retirement writing music from that porch instead of whittling. I'll have my laptop or my tablet creating music as I get older. I mean, we were at the Taxi Rally back in November of 2022, and I noticed a significantly larger percentage of older attendees, and they were new to the business. So fortunately for us, we were blessed with good day jobs, but this is a skill that anyone can start at any time if they have the right attitude. The tools out there are fantastic. So with books like these and mentors, like folks in the taxi community and elsewhere, I think anyone can start and be successful at the joy of writing music. So I think we can just say that we have a long life ahead of us of writing music as long as we want to. Would you agree with that?
It's until the day we die. And, it's not like being a rock star where you have a small window when you're beautiful and people want to buy your record.
Good point. All right, Steve. Well, I thank you so much for your time. You do an awful lot. Again, folks, go buy these books. They're fantastic. They're very, very, and I can't say enough good about this. This one here for everybody. This one, if you read music, is probably more beneficial. or if you want to learn, it could help you start. But this one here is just an absolute home run for novices in plain English to see. So go out and get that book. Links in the description below. Steve, have a darn good day. Thank you so much for taking the time out and talking to me today.
Thank you, Polly.